Hello, everyone. Thank you for your interest in PostgreSQL Database Administration course. In this demonstration, I'll explain about the course content, its duration, frequently asked questions, and I'll also introduce you to the important topics that we discuss in the course. I have been doing training since 2019. That is approximately 4 years of experience into trainings. And I have conducted about 40 plus batches till now. By the end of this course, you shall be able to, what you get by the end of this course? One, you shall be able to run your production show on your own. The second is like you can claim that you have 4 to 6 years of PostgreSQL database administration experience or real-time experience. And the third is the course duration. Course duration is 5 to 6 weeks. It's about roughly 30 working days. Every day it should be 1 hour to 1 hour 15 minutes, like 15 minutes of buffer time. We'll keep it based on the topic. The course content, a detailed discussion about the course content is there in these 2 links. We'll discuss more about a detailed course content discussion later in the demonstration, but I will touch the high level content. I have actually divided the course into 2 sections. One is on-premise PostgreSQL database administration, and then add-ons. In the on-premise PostgreSQL database administration, I've dedicated 5 weeks. The high-level content includes installation of your PostgreSQL, and then creating and managing your databases. Then you perform your daily routine activities. That means day-to-day database administration. Troubleshoot your common problems that you get in your day-to-day environment. We'll completely discuss about the user administration, and then upgradation and replication. These are not the only topics. As I said, these are not the only topics that we discuss. These are just high-level topics. So when I say user administration, it includes creating users, creating read-only users, creating roles, creating profiles, password management, and all that stuff comes into picture. In the same way, troubleshooting common administration problems include your problem with your disk, problem with your memory, and problem with your CPU, and all that stuff. Next, the add-ons. Will spend 1 week on add-ons. That means 5 weeks on this content, on-premise database administration, and 1 week on your add-ons. In the add-ons, we'll discuss more about how to configure your PG backrest for backup and recovery, PG pool for load balancing, PG bouncer for connection caching, and we'll discuss more about third-party extensions. We'll discuss about Aura to PG to migrate your Oracle to PostgreSQL. Oracle database to PostgreSQL database. Then we'll try to understand patterning for high availability, and we'll discuss everything about administering your PostgreSQL on AWS. And then we'll discuss about certification and interview questions. What is this add-ons? What is this add-ons, and what all these things comprises of? What are all these things? PostgreSQL is open source, which means anyone can download the software and create a new software out of the community version software. The open source product, to call it as a community version, failover solution, you can call it as. You configure a standby, and then you configure. There are third-party companies that constantly works on providing add-ons to your community version product. For example, open source product doesn't have HS solution, inbuilt HS solution. So these are all the third-party tools that provide HS solution for your Postgres. That means automatic failover solution, you can call it as. You configure a standby, and then you configure automatic failover on top of that. To do that, you have these many tools available. Each tool is provided by some X third-party company. And then even for backup and recovery, there are n number of tools available. Each tool again is from X or Y or Z companies. You have similarly for GUI, you have these many tools. For monitoring, you have these many tools. For load balancing, you have the bold content that is shown here that we are going to discuss in the classroom. So that is about your add-ons. As I said, if you know PostgreSQL or administering PostgreSQL community version, which is the core product, it is easy for you to manage the derived products. So that is why we spend our entire time or most of the time on administering community version. And then we'll try to understand how to administer RDS or Aurora, which is your Amazon or AWS products. We'll understand how to work with patterning, and we'll leave the rest of the things. Why I choose one from each of these things? Because this is what the industry is using the most. So that is why I kept all of these things as an add-ons. How we track the course? We track the course like this every day. For example, this is my previous batch. And it has started somewhere, the regular process has started somewhere on May 1st and end on June 10th. And this is the duration of each and every day. For example, asset properties, we took 60 minutes, and installation, we took 61 minutes on day 1 and 66 minutes on day 2. For example, recovery scenarios, we took 100 minutes. That means more than 1.5 hours. And we dedicated 4 days to 4 days on AWS, complete AWS. In between, I have had a doubts clearing session. In this day, people have just spent asking me questions based on the lab work they did on all these things. And we spent our entire day on Q&A. It took about 27 days. After 26, it is 28. So it took about 27 days for this batch to complete the course. And it took about 1859 minutes. Somewhere it is roughly about 31 hours. So we track it like this every day. And this is your checklist. We also track the checklist. That means I'm not going to track each and everyone's checklist. I'll give you the checklist to each and everyone. And it is their responsibility to ensure that they complete this checklist. For example, after practicing how to, let us say, how to initialize PostgreSQL cluster in the non-default location, they can tick mark that. And how to use PGCTL for starting up and shutting down your PostgreSQL database, tick mark that. This is an excerpt. This is not the complete list. And after this, you have how do you set up the replication, how do you set up HA, how do you set up PG pool, and all that stuff. By the end of this checklist, or when you ensure that you completed this checklist, that means you have completed all the activities that are related to your Postgres in your real time. What do you get when you join the course? You get theory manual, you get practical manual, you get recorded sessions, and you get the running notes and scripts and additional learning material. I'm not going to use PPTs while demonstrating the actual sessions. This is the only PPT I have. the regular classes would happen on the notepad and on my virtual machine. I'm going to draw the content in the notepad. For example, if I'm discussing architecture, I'm going to draw something like this. So this is your architecture. I'm not going to play any PPTs and read through the PPTs in the classroom. This is the only PPT I have. And lab setup, you're going to set up labs on your personal laptops. The system requirements is if you have i5 CPU and 8 GB RAM and 40 GB hard disk, your system is enough to run all your PostgreSQL administration lab tasks. If you don't have this requirement laptop, then you can have a lab setup in any of the cloud platforms. For that, I think you need to spend some 1,500 rupees in AWS. If it is AWS, if you want to practice entire lab work on AWS, probably you may end up with a charge of 1,500 rupees, not more than that. But I would highly recommend you to set up a lab in your personal laptops. Briefly introduce some of the topics and how we discuss the actual training. First thing first, the PostgreSQL popularity. As I written here, we don't discuss or we don't waste our time discussing its history. We don't need it. I think it has started somewhere in 1986. That's it. If you want to know more about the history, you just read it here. And the PostgreSQL growth, why people wanted to learn PostgreSQL, I'll discuss more about that stuff in day one. But as you can see here in the DB engine rankings, the popularity has started somewhere in 2017 and it has reached its peak as of now, somewhere in 2022. Now it is in saturation mode. That doesn't mean it will decline. It will still continue going ahead. Why this popularity? We'll discuss more about this stuff later. What is PostgreSQL? PostgreSQL is simply a database software with which you create your databases to store your data. Just like any other software you install in your computer, you install PostgreSQL. For example, I just compared here with MS Word document. To work with your MS Word, you install MS Office software in the installation location, see program files MS Office bin word.exe, and you invoke that word.exe to create your resume. In the same way, you install PostgreSQL database software to create your PostgreSQL databases. Why you need to create PostgreSQL database? Yeah, to store your data. How application works? As you can see in the screen, you go to any website. In our example, I just used the Swiggy example. You go to swiggy.com, you enter your username, you click on login. The request will go to the application. Since application doesn't store the user information is stored in your database. The request will be forwarded to your database. Database processes the request and it will return positive reply if the result is there, a negative reply if the result is not there. If the application gets positive reply, you will be taken to the next page. If you get a negative reply, that means if the user is not found, the same information is passed to the front end. That means user does not exist error message. So this is your database, which store the data of the users. What if the database is down? Here, when you see The end user, when logging in, he entered the username and password. He clicked on login. The request has gone to the database server to validate. What if the server is down? Application will not work. To avoid that, you have a replication concept. You have two machines. You have two machines as your database servers. This is your primary, this is your standby. If primary goes down, immediately you can bring your standby up. It's a manual job in open source community product. You have to manually bring your standby up so that you have a least downtime for your application. And the concept, you call it as a replication in Postgres. You have your standby here. You have your primary here. This standby, you use it for your replication purpose or for your high availability purpose. I cannot use the term exact high availability, but yes, if your primary goes down, this can come and rescue you. Meanwhile, you can also use your standby for your activities, read-only activities, because in Postgres, your standby will always be in the read-only mode. It can allow connections if it is a read-only connection. For that reason, you have something called PG pool. This is a tool that helps application forward read-only requests to your standby. If it is a read-write request, your PG pool is wise enough to forward it to your primary. We'll discuss more about a PG pool in our classroom. Then you have Patroni. Patroni is automated failover solution. As I said, if your primary goes down, you have to manually pinch in to bring up your standby for your application. To avoid that, you use Patroni. Then you have a PG bouncer, which helps you establishing connections fastly. So I just revised everything here. If the application, if you enter your username, you enter your sign-in, the application forwards the request to your database. There is an intermediate person who does all the authentication work. If this goes down, there comes your replication. To make use of standby for read-only connection, you use PG pool. To have an automated failover solution, you use Patroni. To help this guy establishing faster connections, you use PG bouncer. So until here, it's community version. And to have this PG pool, Patroni, and PG bouncer, you need add-ons. We will discuss all these things in the classroom. PostgreSQL installation is pretty much straightforward. As you can see here, I'm just doing installation. Yum install PostgreSQL 15-server. This is the single command that will install PostgreSQL for you. This is the software installation. As I said, you install the software to create your databases. Once the software installation is completed, I'm creating a directory to decide my database files location. In this case, I have decided to have my database files in U01 PGSQL 15. Now I'm going to use the tool called initdb, which is provided by the Postgres, to create my first database. initdb -d, the location of your database files. Initialization completed. I'm going to start my database. My database has been started because I could see there are few processes running. To log into your database, you just use pSQL. That's it. We'll see how wall files work. Write ahead log file. Wall is a write ahead log file. This is an excerpt from my previous class discussion. This is how we discuss in the classroom. I'm just providing pointers where what are all those keywords and stuff. How do you create user, schema, and databases in PostgreSQL? Again, it is pretty much straightforward. What I'm doing here is I'm creating a user. Create user, username with password. To create a database, you just choose create database name with owner name. That is the command you use to create your database. So in the above example, I have created a user and I have created a database. Now I'm creating the schema. Create schema name. The relationship between user, schema, and database, everything that we are going to discuss in the classroom. Here I'm creating a table again, and I'm inserting some data into the table. This is the table that I've created. And about replication, the above one is my primary, the below one is my standby. As you can see, lab 01 in the first putty session and lab 02 in the second putty session. I'm inserting a record in the primary, and that should reflect in my standby. So I've created, and that should reflect that has reflected in the standby. This is the insert. This is lab 01, my primary, lab 02, my standby. So I've created, and that should reflect that has reflected in the standby. This is the insert. This is lab 01, my primary, lab 02, my standby. And then we'll install EC2 machines. And then we do everything that you need to know about administering PostgreSQL on AWS. So these are all the tasks that we are going to discuss in the classroom. Next is Oracle to Postgres migration in AWS. This is again an excerpt from my previous discussions, where we have discussed about Oracle to Postgres migration using Amazon schema conversion tool and DMS. Here you can see that there are a couple of issues that we faced while the migration is going on, and we'll discuss briefly about the issues that we face generally during migration, and we'll understand how we have to sit with developer to solve all those issues. So I've exported my Oracle schema and I have imported it into my PostgreSQL schema. We are going to learn how to do all this stuff in the classroom. When it comes to AWS, we are going to discuss all these topics. So we'll set up a network. We'll set up network, and then we'll install EC2 machines. And then we do everything that you need to know about administering PostgreSQL on AWS. So next is Oracle to Postgres migration in AWS. This is again an excerpt from my previous discussions, where we have discussed about Oracle to Postgres migration using Amazon schema conversion tool and DMS. Here you can see that there are a couple of issues that we faced while the migration is going on, and we'll discuss briefly about the issues that we face generally during migration, and we'll understand how we have to sit with developer to solve all those issues. Right? Next, Patroni. As I said, in Patroni, what we are going to discuss, what I said, it's an automated failover solution. In this example, my P1 is the leader. My P2 and P3 are the standbys. These two are the standbys. My P1 is the primary. Primary, you call it as a leader, which is running on my lab 01, 145. 145. Now, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to stop my PostgreSQL in the primary. The expected result is it should be automatically fail over to one of the other two nodes. As you can see here, data inserted successfully 47, 48. That means I'm trying to insert a record each time. And it has connected to 145 because it is my primary. When I stop it, the primary should be switched to one of the two standbys, and the application should continue writing the information to the database by contacting either 146 or 147. We'll see that. So continue. I've stopped my Patroni. First one is stopped, and 147 has become leader now. And now the application is connected to 147. And it is continuing, as you can see in the third putty screen. We are going to discuss more about how all these things are happening in the classroom.
Now we will see few frequently asked questions and a detailed course breakdown. The frequently asked questions include, like, what is the course duration? It is about 6 weeks. And do I get the course recording and the material? Yes, it is provided. And how much time every day? It is about 1 hour a day. Is the course customizable? Yes, it depends on the requirement. As I said, the add-ons can always be customizable. Which version? We always discuss the latest version of the course. Currently it is version 15. And lab setup, you have to have your own lab setups, and assistance is provided until you finish your lab setup. And interview preparation, it again depends on the individual requirement and the batch requirement. If everyone in the batch requires the course interview questions, we shall discuss in the classroom. Otherwise, I'll have a one-on-one. And detailed course content is you can go to this link and you can get the detailed course content. For example, I'll go to the link.
So this is your course content, detailed breakdown. So for example, in the architecture part, we'll discuss all these things. In the installation part, we'll discuss all these things. In configuration part, that means Postgres related configuration files discussion. And then, for example, in the backup and recovery, we'll discuss everything that is there in backups and recovery part. Then, for example, in the streaming replication, we'll discuss all these things. So this is your detailed breakdown. For example, PG pool, it is for load balancing, and whatever that is discussed here, we'll discuss all these things. And the pattern is for high availability, and when it comes to Amazon RDS, discussion on Amazon RDS, like we'll discuss everything. So right from setting up Amazon account to setting up the network to administering your RDS instance in Amazon, everything we'll discuss.
So the conclusion, make the sessions as interactive as possible in the classroom. It should be a two-way communication happening throughout the session. The second is, I'll ensure that you complete your checklist on your own in your lab setup. Third is, the add-ons are subject to batch requirements, so flexibility is there on the topics. So if there is no custom requirement, I'll follow whatever that I have discussed in this demonstration in the add-ons section. If you have any other requirements than we discussed in that section, you can feel free to let me know. And the last thing is, we'll spend enough time on what's next part, the RIMS. After the course is over, is there any extra or is there any additional content that I need to learn? So we'll spend enough time on that so that you'll have a clear picture on what you should do after this course is over. Further questions, you can email to that email ID or WhatsApp to the number that is given in the slide. Thank you for your time on going through this demonstration video, and feel free to message in the WhatsApp or email for further questions.